What's going on, guys? Dan with PC Tech Hustle coming at you with another video. And today I got for you guys a fun video series that I'm trying to embark on here that I'm going to either call Pimp My Rig, Pimp My PC, PC Makeover, something of that nature. I don't know, we'll figure it out. But what do we got here on the table? So what we got here on the table is a tired old PC, but with good bones, that is in some dire need of some gamer upgrades, as well as just a flat out overall of its general looks. Yeah, it needs a lot of work. Alrighty guys, and before we get too deep into anything here, I just want to make mention that if you guys are new here and you enjoy PC pimping or any other PC build or tech related content, make sure you hit the subscribe button down below and don't forget to take that bell notification icon. That way you're informed of whenever I drop my latest content. So let's spin around here and talk about some of the issues that we're going to address regarding this here tired old PC. Alrighty guys, so before anything here, I just want to at least let you guys know about some brief history of this PC. So this is a PC that I got from my wife's client. She's a hairdresser, and the client has a son who wants to get gaming, and this PC, although I'm not sure if it was actually his, it might have just been in the family, but was basically used as an office PC. Nothing really super outstanding about this machine, so it would do the normal word processing, internet, YouTube things just fine. So she wanted to give it off to me, knowing that I kind of do this YouTube thing, right? And she wanted to get it up to spec and get it refreshed so that way she can give it off to her son as a Christmas gift for getting a gaming PC for him. So what do we got here on the table? Well, we got a fun looking PC. It's definitely not at all eye-catching. It's definitely, well, pretty ugly, but it's got good bones. So what do we mean by good bones? Well, we got three items here that I'm basically identifying as the ones that I want to take with me as being the good bones parts. So let's quickly discuss that, what we got here. So we have an i7 6700. Now it's not a K version, so it is a locked processor. However, we still have 4 cores, 8 threads to work with, and that CPU still turbos up to 4 gigahertz. So it's definitely not a slouch, but in this generation, it's not obviously the best option, but we don't have to spend any money there. Secondly, we have a motherboard that is still a pretty good part to hold on to. So again, that is going to be one of the parts we take with us. And we have an MSI Z170 crate, though yes, it is technically an overclocking motherboard, has some of those overclocking features, which unfortunately we're not going to be able to do here, but still a very good motherboard, so there's no reason to get away from it. We're going to take it with us. Lastly, you might see here, which is in a funny configuration state right now. The previous builder mistakenly put the RAM into single channel mode, but we can definitely fix that. The good thing here is the memory is 16 gigs or 2 8 gig sticks of Crucial Ballistics memory. Now the memory is running at 2400 megahertz, so it's not terribly fast. However, it still should do pretty fine with an Intel build of this generation, so I'm not concerned with the speed of the memory. We should be pretty okay with that for this generation of i7 and combination of hardware. Couple things here that we are definitely changing, right? So obviously the case being, I'd say your primary one. So this case is some type of old Antec budget case. I really don't even know really the full model. It just said Antec on the front, but it's seen its days. So right now in its current configuration, doesn't actually even have any intake fans, which I'll spin around here. I did remove the front mesh cover there just to go see and verify because I wasn't finding any fans. But yeah, no fans are present, so we have no intake. This case, it's just old and it doesn't have good cable management. I just want to completely get rid of it. And if we're trying to make a gamer looking system, this one just isn't doing it right for us. Secondly, which I'm sure you guys can probably notice pretty quickly here, is the terrible cable management. Now, again, to the credit of the original builder, yeah, they probably couldn't do a whole lot with it in regards to, the cable management, because we can't even actually put anything out back because the back panel literally is basically sucked up on the motherboard tray. They probably could have done a little better job tying things off. This is literally how I received it, by the way. But we're getting rid of the cables because we're going with a new power supply, which was actually previously featured on my channel, being the AresGame 500 watt 80 plus bronze certified power supply. So not only are we going up in power supply as far as an 80 plus certification and a bronze at that, we're going to get rid of this nasty ketchup and mustard cables that we see here and go with some all black cables that come with that power supply. Another thing that's probably just bleeding out to your eyes right now is the fact that this system has no GPU whatsoever. Again, like I mentioned, this system was strictly just for office use. There was no real need to have a GPU. They weren't gaming on it, so they were just using the integrated graphics that comes on the CPU. But to get us gamer ready, we definitely need a GPU. And it just so happened that this person reached out to me at the right time because I have an RX 570 8 gig MSI, one of the nicer cards, the ones with nice backplate and a little bit more power delivery to give us some better gaming experience. So I had that on hand. I picked it up here locally, tested it, the card's working fine, so it's going in this system. I'd say lastly, a thing to address with this system here also is the storage, which we have just a hanging out SSD right now. This is actually a SanDisk 240 gig SSD, which isn't necessarily bad by any means. We're actually going to keep it, but we're going to expand on the storage and add a 500 gig silicon power SSD that I picked up, just because 240 gigs isn't going to get you far these days, and honestly, it used to be kind of my budget target amount. However, with games like Modern Warfare these days, you know, you're going to eat it up all in one drive, and I don't want that to happen for this guy. So I want him to be gaming, so we're going to add in some more storage. So that will give us 240 plus another 512. We'll just be shy of 1 terabyte. That should be pretty good to set him off to the races. And lastly, we'll do some aesthetic upgrades as well, which is for you to see here soon, but we're going to add in some RGB fans from up here, as well as we're going to take another product that I got from AresGame, being their CPU cooler, since it looks so nice and sleek, and I had that on hand as well, and attach it here to get rid of this nasty Intel stock cooler, so that way it definitely looks like it's a gamer ready machine. So guys, what more can be said about this tired old machine? We know the areas that we're going to address as far as keeping some parts, as well as the many other areas that we're going to just basically throw in the trash. So let's cut over a build montage, get this old tired PC looking sexy and ready for some 2020 gaming. Alrighty guys, so new day, new shirt, and most importantly, very fresh and new looking PC. With that said, what have we done so far? Let's do a quick recap. So, as we know, the previous PC had some good bones, but that was about it. It was pretty ugly and not well put together. Had a good processor, motherboard, and RAM, which we carried over into this one. Aside from that, as you can now see what we've implemented so far on top of that. We'll start here with the case, which we got here is a Deep Cold Matrix 55, and I actually opted to go with the non-fan version just because if we went with an RGB fan version, yes, there would be 3 cool RGB fans up front, kind of like what we got going on here, but nothing else through the rest of the case. And kind of being some older hardware, I kind of wanted to light up the build a little bit more, and I thought if I got some of my own RGB fans, I'd be able to definitely carry on that a little bit better in this build. So that is exactly what I did here. Is I just got the base case, which was about 55 bucks, 60 bucks, and then spent another 40 on some up here RGB fans, a 6-pack in total, which now since we have it kind of all through the system, I think is definitely lighting it up real well. Yes, I do have it set on RGB kind of puke mode right now just to kind of showcase, but this is a controllable RGB through a controller, a handheld controller. So the colors can be set to anything, and there's tons of different modes or whatever, so that's all easy to do. And I think that'll be good for a younger kid who will have an easier time with not having to worry about complexities of RGB software or anything like that. He can just push some buttons and go. And you might notice too, while we're talking about the aesthetics here, is I actually mounted one of those fans to the cooler, the AresGame cooler, the CPU cooler that I reviewed previously. I opted to not go with the fan, although it was a good fan that came with that cooler, but required another controller to get RGB function going, or a motherboard with RGB control itself with headers. And this motherboard's a little older, doesn't have any of that. So I opted out on that fan mainly because it would have been more of a challenge to get the RGB working, and it's not as cohesive, right? So now I've got it carrying all the way through. So we're just using that fan to mount directly to the CPU cooler. And kind of also on the notion of aesthetics, we have the AresGame power supply, 500 watt, 80 plus bronze certified power supply now in this rig. And for basically 2 reasons. One, we wanted to get those all black cables to get rid of that ketchup and mustard junk that was going on before. But most importantly, upgrade our power supply quality, as the previous unit wasn't even 80 plus certified. It's a, if I were to guess, around a 5 to 6, 7, 8-year-old supply from Thermaltake, when Thermaltake really wasn't known for making power supplies back then, isn't even 80 plus certified. So I didn't want to put it into this system. Even though it was the same wattage, I didn't really feel too good about going on that. So other than the aesthetics, which I think are flowing really well, by the way, and I'd have to say this is probably one of the better looking PCs I've built on this channel, but we also made a very important upgrade, being the GPU, which this PC previously did not have. And that GPU being an MSI RX 578 gig Armor Mark II model. So it's the bigger, more power hungry GPU with a nice functional metal backplate. So ties into this build really well, as you can see there. And this will definitely now set this rig up for some 1080p gaming potential for sure. And by the way, I got that card here locally, as I mentioned, for about 85 bucks. So got a steal on that, and I want to now especially include that into this build, because getting a video card, even these lower end ones, even on the secondhand market, is very difficult to get at a good value. So we definitely got in touch with this client doing this build at the right time, because otherwise they would have been spending another 50, 60, maybe even $100 more just for the same kind of, or same power level GPU. So guys, I guess that about wraps it up. I think mission accomplished, I'd have to say. We definitely took a old tired looking PC that maybe even thought of as having no hope at all, and definitely put in some very strong potential, as well as, I'd have to say, we pimped it out, didn't we? But aside from all that, guys, make sure you do the YouTube thing, right? Give me a like if you enjoyed this content, and let me know in the comments, did I accomplish my mission of pimping out this PC plus making it gamer ready for a young kid who is really anxious to get off gaming in this Christmas holiday? I hope I did, and honestly, I can't wait to hear and see his reaction. But other than that, if you stuck with the video this long, then I'd like to say thanks for tuning into this one. I appreciate your time, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.